A challenging year has presented new opportunities, and for the first time in 20 years, Imsa is racing on the road course at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Roval. And the cars and stars of sports cars are rolling off now and ready to race. Welcome to the Motul 100% Synthetic Grand Prix from the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway with the Imsa WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Delayed just a bit because the Xfinity race ran long. There was a near monsoon. Rain continues throughout the evening, but we're able to get going. And our WeatherTech weather shows that we're still going to see some showers throughout the evening. Very comfortable temperatures, and it should provide plenty of entertainment. Now, this is a GT-only race, so no prototypes. These are the production GTLM and GTD classes. Thanks for joining us this evening. We are in store for what we think is going to be highly entertaining action on the Roval tonight. My name is Kevin Lee, along with Calvin Fish, who has raced here, and A.J. Allmendinger, who has raced here, about 90 minutes or so ago, and won the Xfinity race. Well, Cal, it is the shortest race of the season, just an hour and 40 minutes, but why might this be one of the more challenging races of the year for these teams and drivers?
Well, I think as a driver, Kevin, when you come to a new venue, it's very exciting. A lot of anticipation about what it will be like. Or when you get out on this racetrack for the first time, it is eye-opening. I mean, it's really intense. The walls are right there. You cannot afford to make a mistake. We've seen a few throughout the course of the last 24 hours. If you make a mistake here, it's going to have big consequences. Think about the championship leaders. They're just trying to survive the night. In literally 7 days' time, we'll be in the middle of Petit Le Mans, a 10-hour race down at Road Atlanta. So for the championship contenders, the championship leaders, they want to get through this one unscathed if they possibly can. But AJ, two classes running here tonight is going to be a tough one. You've been here, you've done it, you've won the race twice now for Xfinity. What do the GT classes have to do tonight to survive?
Well, I mean, it's just make no mistakes or limit the mistakes. It really comes down to, I just got off the racetrack. There's so much standing water in certain sections of the racetrack. It's so easy to get in a little too deep. Think you're okay because the previous lap you were. The next lap, more standing water. The car can take off on you. And as we've seen there from those clips, there's no room to hide. So if you make a mistake, you're going to find the wall, the grass. You're going to have damage to your race car. And for these championship contenders, if you make a mistake like that, it could ruin your championship.
Parker Kligerman has also raced here last year in the Cup race on the Roval, and he starts our reports on pit road.
Right, Kevin. And speaking of championship, well, the championship leaders in GTLM are the 3 Corvette. You know, when Corvette debuted this C8R earlier this year, people wondered, will it have the reliability? It most likely have the speed, but I don't think they expected the speed that this 3 car has shown. 4 wins on the season, their 3rd pole here today. It has been absolutely dominant through this since we came back to the pandemic break. But you might think, all right, we're going to a 10-hour race next weekend, maybe protect that car, protect the points lead. But talking to Jordan Taylor and Antonio Garcia, they're not letting up. They said we must continue to dominate, go get the wins, and prove that we have the best car in the field, Dylan.
And Parker, we talked so much about the diversity and intensity of the GT Daytona field. 5 different manufacturers occupying the first 5 spots today. We have to look no further than the front row for the points battle, though. You've got the 14 car, the points-leading Lexus, alongside the 86 Acura. Both of those cars, of course, separated by just a mere 3 points or 5 points if you're Jack Hawksworth, battling it out for the championship. We've talked so much and heard so many of the drivers talk about the importance of track position today. It's going to be interesting watching those two go down into turn number 1, getting the elbows up, trying to grab the lead, because that could be all the difference in the world come the end of this race.
Thank you, Dylan. The championship leading GTLM number 3 Corvette won the Motul Pole Award, Jordan Taylor's 3rd of the year, 4th for Corvette. And in GTD, it's the number 14 Lexus Aim Vassar-Sullivan with Aaron Telitz. The Michelin starting grid, Calvin, starters with GTLM.
Well, as you said, Jordan Taylor on the pole once again, but alongside one of the Porsche drivers. They missed the last round of the championship. They have nothing to lose. They're going to be going for broke here tonight.
Yeah, in GTD, you have your closest competitor to Aaron Telitz and Jack Hawksworth in that championship. Matt McMurray in that Meyer-Shank Racing Acura starting 3rd. And Jeff Kingsley making his first start in that Compass Racing McLaren. Great qualifying effort, starting 4th.
In fact, that was his first time in one of these cars yesterday. So pretty impressive. All right, WeatherTech keys to victory, Calvin. What do you got?
Well, these were mainly set up for the dry conditions. Do you take an early yellow, make that pit stop, and really be on the front foot after being on the back foot? No mulligans on pit lane. It could be a one-stop race. You got to get it right. And then a 2 or a 4 tire stop. That was really in the dry, but in these wet conditions, if we don't see it dry out, does someone roll the dice and run a set of Michelins for the whole 100 minutes here tonight?
So much to play for, so challenging for the drivers to see. Admittedly, a little bit concerned about the broadcasters being able to see and ID the cars. But we've got the yellow Corvette. Jordan Taylor leading the field. The Porsche. Fred Makovic is next to him. Bruno Spengler in one of the BMWs is right behind him, along with his teammate, Jesse Krohn, looking for the green. They'll skip the chicane on the start, and it's go time from the Roval in Charlotte.
Jordan Taylor from the pole, a big jump there. Everyone just tiptoeing through this first corner, trying to get through here unscathed. Those walls are right there as the Porsche switches to the outside.
And that turn one was where it was crazy in the Xfinity race. Big puddles there. Everybody seems to have gotten through. But look at this. We can see it from the outside view. I can guarantee these drivers behind Jordan Taylor, they barely can see anything.
Spengler there in the bright red BMW number 25. Big twitch there as he accelerates down towards turn 5. This is a tricky one, AJ.
We know these BMWs. We've seen it at Daytona in the wet. They're very strong. Will they push, be aggressive, knowing that they got to win this race to have a shot at the championship? You see the 24 car of Jesse Krohn has gotten into third, it looks like. Makovic, big slide there, Calvin.
Krohn has got on the power early. He's got inside the Porsche. That BMW looks to be hooked up. It's got a much longer wheelbase. It could be good in these conditions.
And the second BMW, the red BMW, the number 25, has got a little run.
Everyone believed in dry conditions this Porsche could be the car to beat, particularly through the infield. Shorter wheelbase, very agile. And now look at the spray they're having to deal with. Visibility, a big issue.
You're going to see here Spengler to the outside. He's going to have the inside into this final chicane here. It was really puddling up a lot on the outside. You can see him carrying a ton of speed in the brakes. Oh, he's lost it.
Just got in there too deep. Probably had a little bit of rear brake bias in there. You roll the brake bars towards the rear so you don't lock the fronts. Maybe he went too far there, AJ. Just caught him out.
Got it back going in the right direction. So, yes, he lost a lot of track position, but still in play. Now the challenge and the battle is up front for the lead. The number 24 BMW Team RLL with Jesse Krohn is challenging Jordan Taylor.
This is what makes rain racing so difficult. That first lap they went through there was standing water. It's still raining. The next time you go by, this corner can be completely different. So you can see Jordan Taylor being a little bit careful through this infield. Right now, Jesse Krohn attacking.
Tell you what, though, Jordan Taylor's been very much in the zone. We talk about the Corvette racing team, this number 3 squad really ticking all of the boxes this year. A lot of that comes down to Jordan Taylor. He's taken this full-time ride really well. There's the replay, as you see in the big screen there, of Spengler just losing it into the brake zone there.
Here it is on board with Spengler.
No, I don't think that was too much rear brake,
wasn't.
Calvin. It just stepped out on him, and that's the thing. There's so much puddles on the outside of that chicane. You got to run a narrow line. Spengler tried to turn in. Wasn't carrying a ton of speed, but obviously that BMW stepped out.
Parker, tell us more about BMW.
Well, guys, we watched Jesse Krohn hounding Jordan Taylor there. One of the strengths that a lot of the BMW drivers talked about of that BMW was activating the tires early on. They know they have one of the best parts of getting the tires working very early in the run. That Corvette in front of them, though, one of the best on the long run. So they knew they're going to make headway, then get track position. It has to be early on. That's why I think you're seeing Jesse Krohn and the other BMW pushing so hard. And another BMW spun out.
Yeah, that's Robbie Foley, who started second. And I was just about to note that we hadn't seen no change amongst the top 3 in GTD with Telitz, Foley, and McMurray. But now Foley has gone around.
See there, that's what I'm talking about. Robbie Foley is on the edge of the racetrack, and you see Bruno Spengler deep and had to go through the chicane there and had to come to a stop. But Robbie Foley, that's what's going to happen. You run the outside line there, which is the normal dry line, but it's starting to puddle there. So we got in there, the car hydroplane, nothing he could do.
And the 25 Spengler had another little issue and lost some more time. This is up front. Overall, this is a GT-only race, so no Daytona prototypes or LMP2. It's GTLM, the All-Pro class, and the Pro-Am GTDs, and they're going at it. The Corvette and the BMW separated by less than a car length most of the time in the early stages.
Kevin, do you think all the prototype drivers are watching this laughing, going, thank goodness we don't have to be there?
Good weekend off.
On the sofa grabbing a beer right now, I'm sure.
Closes up on him there through the chicane. That's the front stretch chicane. This is into turn number 1.
We talk about with the wet conditions and obviously not a lot of heat. A little twitch there by Jordan. Jesse Krohn goes to the inside and grabs the lead.
He's got him. Change for the lead. Jesse Krohn and BMW Team RLL takes over on the dominant number 3 Corvette team this season. And the 911 is back in play.
Yeah, I was just going to say, these conditions are not as physically demanding, but AJ, you've just been through it mentally. You're just exhausted after a stint here.
Yeah, it's just physically, I mean, especially in the Xfinity car, you're going slow enough, you don't even think about it. As we see there, the 57, Misha Goikberg, had some trouble in qualifying, had contact. That's turn 1 there, spun again, easy to do, but yes, mentally, I mean, I was worn out by the end of the race. You're barely, I mean, you're just holding the steering wheel so light. You're using the brakes so easy. The throttle, you're just gently. It's so hard in these conditions.
So the BMW gets the advantage. Remember, they won the Rolex 24 to start off the season. Jesse Krohn is in front now in the wet under the lights at Charlotte. Imsa Racing on NBCSN is brought to you by Motul, 100% synthetic lubricants, powering performance for over 165 years. By Michelin, reimagine the exceptional. And by Lexus, experience amazing. It's the shortest race of the season and different strategy options are in play. Drive time is only 5 minutes for GTLM, and Dylan, the 912 Porsche is already in.
and they had some damage with Lawrence Vantour in the car to the entire rear bumper section. So you can see them working on that now, replacing that whole tail light area, that whole tail light assembly. We'll see the replay here, similar to what happened earlier to them, just got a little sideways and then made contact with the outside wall. This is heavy damage, though. Then it's an extended stop on pit road. They pulled Vantour out, put Earl Bamber in, but you can see, look at all the damage to the right rear and the rear end of this race car.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for this car here. Earl Bamber crashed it twice in testing, AJ, and then Lawrence had a crash in qualifying, so it just hasn't been enough. The sister car is around. This is Makavecki in the 911.
That's turn one.
That's tough. You come around there committed. Yellows are waving, but nonetheless, it's hard to change direction if it catches you out.
Yeah, and that's, we're going to probably see that a lot tonight, just because as you go through that corner, as you try to get back on power, that's where it's really starting to puddle up. So it was a challenge in the Xfinity cars, and I guarantee in these cars it's going to be even worse. But back to the 912. Full course yellows out, trying to get the 911 around, but back to the 912, that double right-hander. It's easy to do. You climb up the hill. You really want to carry some speed. Even in the wet, you want to roll some speed in. But we saw there just that little twitch, and once you do, you hit the paint. That leads to the grass. There's no stopping the race car.
Yeah, I did the track walk the other night with Jack Corksworth, and he said it's tricky in the dry. It's really easy to get caught out there.
Yeah, roll some speed in. See that little twitch? That's the paint. There's the grass. Now it's game over.
And now to the 911, and what a difference a year makes. Porsche dominated this championship last year, and the only manufacturer without a win in GTLM in 2020. And they have been in contention, but every event, something goes wrong, and already issues for both cars in GTLM. So this is going to be a short yellow. We'll explain, and we'll go back to green flag racing in just a moment from the Charlotte Roval. Well, a lot of creativity because of the circumstances have developed some new options, and for the first time in 20 years, as we see the Cadillac Track Facts, Imsa is at Charlotte at the reconfigured oval, but they have a history here, slightly different layout through the 70s and the 80s. Big break returned in 2000, and that ALMS race included Bill Auberlen, of course, and also Ian James. McLaren Racing CEO Zach Brown raced in that event as well. They've run at times with NASCAR back in the day on Coca-Cola 600 weekend. This is the first time, though, since Brickyard weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2014 that IMSA and NASCAR shared the same venue on the same weekend. Early going, it's the BMW of Jesse Krohn leading. Tell us what's happening with Porsche, Dylan.
Well, Earl Bamber, who got in the car to replace Lawrence Vantour, who was in it when it crashed, has just climbed out, and the crew is packing up because the 912 is done. You can see all of the damage here. They took off that rear bumper cover to try to replace all of this assembly, the rear to the right rear tail light and everything, but all of that is shoved up there kind of into that cowling area. So the damage is significant enough that just 15 minutes into this race, the 912's done, Parker.
Right, Dylan, and we saw Jordan Taylor, the number 3 Corvette, the pole sitter of this race, lose the lead to the 24 there of Jesse Krohn's BMW, and then actually fell back to 3rd place. And then he came on the radio as the team was telling him, hey, make sure to adjust your brake bias. He said, it's not a brake bias thing. It's I'm going down the straightaway and suddenly I lose the entire car. So what is that? That's the hydroplaning or aquaplaning we're always talking about, where the car literally gets on top of the water and you lose control of it. That's what they're fighting in that number 3 Corvette. So really just having to tiptoe around right now through these treacherous conditions.
Another chance and another go at it, though, on the restart. So they went down the front stretch for the start of the race. They will use the chicane on restarts, and that's the restart zone, just entering the chicane. So here we go with BMW leading a pair of Corvettes. The yellow Corvette is first. The number 4 gray Corvette is next with Oliver Gavin, and then Bruno Spengler running in 4th in the other BMW. Back at it, and Jordan Taylor isn't going to be able to get to Krohn on this restart.
Krohn there had to just hesitate a little bit on the exit of turn 1 there. You could see him kind of lift off a little bit, but Jordan Taylor not close enough to do anything with it. And with that restart zone, if you're at the tail end of the pack, we spoke to the race director this morning, he said yes, it is possible to make a move into the chicane, but tough to do in these conditions with the visibility.
The 911 on pit road, Fred McAvicky is climbing out, and now
car. Bechtelsheimer was having an awesome run here today.
That's the Gradient Racing Acura, and Bechtelsheimer qualified well and was racing well at the beginning. And another full course caution, but this will be a regular caution, which will allow the pits to open. That short yellow, pits were not open a moment ago.
That's the exit of turn 1 there. It looks like exit of 1 into turn 2. Guessing.
He was deep in the pack there, AJ, so I'm not sure if he got touched or whether he just tried to accelerate someone coming off of that tricky turn 1.
Yeah, if it was
ping-ponged.
If he was by himself, try to throttle up right where that racetrack is really puddling there on the exit of 1 and slid across to the inside wall. But as you said, Calvin, not sure if there's help there or not.
I noticed it a little bit bumpy when I did the track walk coming out of the acceleration zone out of turn 1. Does that unsettle the car in these conditions?
Well, it does, and right now in these rainy conditions, if you just could see the restart there, Jesse Krohn, when the car bounced, it's like the pavement, that's where the flat part of the pavement starts connecting to the uphill. So that's what's making it so difficult. That's exactly where the water's starting to sit, is right on the flat part. That's where you're putting the power down and going uphill. So very tricky there in turn 1. That's where, fortunately, I was able to make the move on Chase Briscoe. But, I mean, every lap you literally just turn in, hold the car across the water, never touch the throttle, and then hopefully you gathered it up. So with these cars being so low, that's going to be an even bigger challenge that they have to face than we did in the Xfinity race.
We're keeping an eye on the second Porsche, the 912, already done. Dylan, not looking good for the 911 either.
Yeah, well, they've got both ends covered here. The 912 had rear end issues. The 911's got front end problems here. So the left front is the area of concern, where you saw Fred McAvicky spin around and back into the wall. So he came down pit road, got out of the car, and Nick Tandy, who's the other driver, just kind of stood on the wall and looked around like, am I supposed to get in or not? So they just ripped this entire front end, front bumper assembly off, and they're again focused on that left front where the car made more significant contact with the wall. So Tandy is in the race car, so I don't think this is is as big of an issue as the 912 has, but obviously a problem of some sorts here that's going to, if not take them out of contention, certainly make it an uphill climb for the 911 the rest of the evening.
Pits are going to open this time by GTD drive time has not been reached as we see Till Bechtelsheimer climbing out of the 22. But Calvin, there are some strategy options in play here.
Well, certainly for the GT Le Mans cars, I mean, there's not a deep field now with two of them already gone, with the two Porsches look like they're out of the event. So you could come in, top up. There's a GT Le Mans, GTD reset class split there at the end before we go back to green. So the furthest you're going to start the race in at the restart is 4th position, even if you come down pit lane. And just by moving that fuel window a little bit, does open up the strategy for you.
Aaron Tielitz with Rice Lake Weighing Systems as a more prominent sponsor with his Aim Vassar Sullivan Lexus machine. All right, let's explain the pit procedures here and what we're going to be seeing here in a moment.
Well, essentially, GT Le Mans cars are allowed to come in first, and then the GTD cars have to wait another lap. But the problem is, looking at the clock, as we see the GT Le Mans cars coming in, even under yellow, by the time they get back around again, they will not suffice the 30-minute drive time for GTD drivers. So bit of strategy there as well. If you got poor track position, come on in, load up with fuel. You'll be at the back of the pack and ready to go again. Parker?
Right, and I expect to see a driver change on each one of these GT11 cars. This allows them to get that done here while filling these cars full of fuel here, as well as not changing tires, as you see, just leaving those in. But they will get the driver change done, which then opens up the strategy for if they are to burn enough fuel later in the race. The same here on the number 14 Corvette. Jordan Taylor got out, Antonio Garcia got in, and it's the same on the 4 Corvette. They're away.
John Edwards got in the leading BMW.
And I tell you what, that really puts the pressure on the driver change, because there was probably about 10 seconds of fuel going on board or less. And a typical driver change is around 18 to 20 seconds. The Porsche drivers can do it a bit quicker, even though it's not a factor right now with them both having trouble, maybe in around 15. So it's on that short fill, AJ, where that's why you practice it. You put in a full fuel load in at 34 seconds, you got all the time in the world to have a sandwich and take a break. But when you're doing a short fill, that's when it really counts in terms of rehearsing it.
Yeah, that's why I tell Mike Shank, if the pit stop's going to be any shorter than 25 seconds, my old body doesn't bend that way, so I'm not getting in the car that quick. So just leave who's ever in the car in there, because we're going to lose time. But yeah, it's amazing, and that's a part of sports car racing, is making sure that you're not only in shape when it comes to driving the race car, but these driver changes. I mean, you have to be quick, nimble, get in and out of the car, and look like both teams there, the BMW team and the Corvette team, did a great job.
So BMW Team RLL gets out in front, and while we have a moment, want to offer our best wishes to Bobby Rahal, the team principal, former Indianapolis 500 winner. Graham Rahal is the one who alerted us that his dad was dealing with what a lot of race car drivers deal with, and needed back surgery, and then the follow-up all went well. So hopefully Bob is at home or still in the hospital, wherever he's at tonight, resting. And congrats on successful surgery. We'll see you back at the racetrack very, very soon.
What a year for Bobby, winning the Rolex 24 in our class and then winning the Indy 500 with Takuma Sato. Great stuff.
He's won it a couple of times as an owner with Mike Lanigan and David Letterman, and as a driver as well in the Indy 500. And he celebrated in sports cars' biggest race in America, the Rolex 24. Dylan, go ahead.
Kevin, we talked about the 912's issues. We mentioned the 911's issues. The 911 is done too. Both Porsches out in under 25 minutes. So that damage on the left front of the 911 just too severe. Nick Tandy got out of the car, and you can feel it down here. I mean, these guys, the crew guys, are just so disappointed. The drivers are so disappointed. Remember, they missed the last race at Mid-Ohio due to some COVID concerns within the team. So really wanted to come out here and just kind of get things back going in the right direction. And this is not the way to do it. Both Porsches already done.
Just miserable, and the program already going away for next year. None of the GTD cars pitted. They haven't reached drive time at this point. But the storyline in the first, even in the first 10 minutes of this race, just a rough start for Porsche in GTLM. First the 912, and later the 911. Continuing, what's the hashtag that a lot of people are using? 2020. That's the way it's been for Porsche in Imsa. Still plenty to go, though. BMW and Corvette fighting overall, and much more from Charlotte. Tomorrow night, Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings head to CenturyLink Field to face Russell Wilson and the 4-0 Seattle Seahawks. Vikings-Seahawks Football Night in America kicks off tomorrow night at 7 Eastern only on NBC. About to go green. First, though, we check in with Parker.
Right, catching up with Jesse Krohn, who had that awesome start in the 24 BMW RRL team. You guys started fourth, but got to the lead in a couple laps. How was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. We knew we had the pace. Unfortunately, in qualifying, there was a red flag that really put us on the back foot, and we ended up further back where we had the pace to be. And I kind of wanted to get to the lead as quickly as possible because the visibility behind other cars was so bad that I just needed to clear them and get to the lead.
And guys, he told me it's incredibly treacherous out there. He will not be getting back in the car, and he said that's not such a bad thing with these conditions.
Relax and enjoy the rest of the way. John Edwards is now in that black 24 BMW. The yellow Corvette is Antonio Garcia. Connor DeFilippi is in the red 25 BMW.
This is where it's tricky. Remember, John Edwards, Garcia, Connor DeFilippi behind him. They're all exploring this racetrack for the very first time, trying to get to power, go to green.
Here we go again. Nice run for the Corvette. Through the chicane.
Four-car jumps inside Connor. Tommy Milner there up on the wheel early in the stint. Four cars looked really strong here this weekend. I was surprised to see them qualify so far back, AJ.
Yeah, I was watching that qualifying session from inside the racetrack. It just seemed like it, and it's part of the nature of the Roval just to get that lap perfect. The lap times were fairly close, so really showing that they have pace here. And in the wet, Tommy Milner, great restart there to get around Connor DeFilippi.
And it's still Aaron Telitz and Matt McMurray 1-2. The Lexus and the Acura. And Michael DeCasada has moved up to third in class, right behind Matt McMurray, we're riding on board with. So the number 12, Aim Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Remember, DeCasada is a late add because, congratulations, Frankie Montecalvo, Townsend Bell's normal teammate, got married today.
That's pretty cool. This is an awesome stint for Michael. He's had a couple of races this year. He ran at the Rolex 24 and also at the Road Atlanta 6 Hour, but has nowhere near the experience in this car as does some of his co-drivers. Dylan,
tell us more.
At Aaron Telitz continues to lead in the 14, Kevin, and I'm sure this is something AJ can expand upon a little bit, but Aaron was talking about how every lap when he goes out onto this racetrack, it's different. You know, the puddles are less. There's maybe more puddles in another area. If it's continued to rain, the rain has kind of stopped now, but when it was raining, each lap, each time you went around, there was different puddles and different areas you kind of had to learn and avoid. So it was a challenge, and it is a challenge out here as it continues to rain for these guys to figure out where is a safe spot to go on the racetrack. And if you can't see, it's dark back here in the infield section as you see a big bobble there by one of the Corvettes, it looks like. But it's tough back here in the infield because there are just so many random spots of puddles or slippery spots that make it that much more challenging to navigate around this Roval.
Connor DeFilippi in the second BMW has dropped way back. He's actually been passed by Aaron Telitz. We talk about the GTD cars, AJ. Talk about the ABS, how effective it is in these sort of conditions compared to the GT Le Mans cars that do not have that technology.
Yeah, so with the ABS, you're still able to attack the brake pedal. No, you can't just go down there and hammer it. You see really close to the exit of the wall there, Connor DeFilippi. But yeah, with the ABS, you can still attack the brakes. It doesn't necessarily lock the front tires up, but you're still going to turn some rear brake into the car to try to keep from the front tires trying to lock up, but it definitely gives you a little bit of confidence in the GTD car compared to the GTLM car, knowing that you can get on the brakes a little bit harder and attack it.
And here a moment ago is what happened to the 25 BMW.
Already. He's got a little bit of axle hop, AJ. You've experienced that.
Yeah.
They're independent rears, but rears were locked up there going in.
And that's the telltale sign when you're in trouble. You start aiming for the apex of the corner like, please give me more room to slow down. It rarely works.
So now a GTD car, Aaron Telitz is 4th overall in this race.
Well, we talked about that with Townsend and potentially those cars going to the front. But now it's really tricky. So for Connor DeFilippi, he's got to try and get around there and not let those GT Le Mans leaders get too far down the road. But to make a move, he's got to do it on the brakes typically. And then you're racing against someone who's got ABS brakes to try and compete with.
Parker, the championship leader in GTD, is in.
Right, guys, out of second place, Mac McMurray comes in, Mario Farnbacher gets in. A lot of the GTD cars on pit lane right here as we just crossed over that 30-minute mark, meaning minimum drive time for those first drivers in the cars. You see the 86 pulls away.
Just also the Heinricher Meyer Shank Racing Acura in to make the change.
You lose about 25 seconds coming down pit lane, and you only need about half a tank of fuel going on, so that's about 20 seconds. So pit stop right now should cost you about 45 seconds to stand out on the racetrack, so you should comfortably stay on the lead lap, which is a real key.
Yeah, if you're Meyer Shank Racing there in the 86 Acura, Matt McMurray doing a fantastic job, but if you really look at Mario Farnbacher, I mean, he's fast in any conditions, but in the wet, in this car, he is so quick, so they wanted to get Mario in as quick as possible and see if he go out there and attack.
We saw Paul Holton on board the Compass Racing McLaren, the number 76. Really good stint for Jeff Kingsley, who had never driven one of these GT3 cars before. He's been dominating Porsche GT3 Cup, but hasn't driven this car before. And now here comes the leader in GTD. Aaron Telitz is in, Dylan.
He is indeed, and as the driver change is underway, again, remember how important these driver changes are. Need to be quick with the short fueling. So Jack Hawksworth going into 14, Michael De Quesada getting out of the 12, and Townsend Bell going in. So hard to be, got to be super efficient. They were instructing both of these guys, get everything ready as we pull down pit lane, just waiting on the fuel in the 12 and the 14 as well. VP Racing fuel going in. No Michelin tires being changed here, and now just waiting on T-Bell to get buckled in. It's going to be a race off pit road between the two Lexuses.
Look at the delay there. It was fogging on the goggles from the mechanic. He couldn't see the latch to get it done up. That cost them big time, AJ.
So that hurt the 14. It also hurt the 12 just a little bit. Townsend trying to get out of his pit box. Didn't think his teammate would still be there. You can see, looks like the 96 BMW, Bill Auberland, has gotten around both of them and see where they come back out on the racetrack. I would assume Mario and the 86 car and Pat Long, they might be long gone.
Mario is long gone.
Yeah, he's in turn 6 right now, so he's about a quarter of a lap ahead right now.
And update, guys, I've got a text message from Elio Castroneves. He's enjoying watching this and not being here. So the prototype drivers so far, 1 vote, happy to be sitting on the couch.
That might be a common refrain. Hello, Elio. Glad you're with us tonight. We'll see you at Petit Le Mans coming up next weekend. Won at Road Atlanta not too long ago, and they've got a 3-race winning streak. But tonight, it's about the GT cars. VP Racing's Stay Frosty is the official performance coolant of Imsa. These ready-to-pour coolants will keep your vehicle running cool during extreme temperatures on the track or street. For a limited time, buy 2, get 1 free at vpracingfuels.com. It's been a very entertaining day today at the Roval at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A.J. Allmendinger has already won the Xfinity race. He joins us in the booth with Calvin Fish. I'm Kevin Lee, Parker Kligerman, and Dylan Welch on pit road. The BMW team RLL number 24 got past the number 3 Corvette in the opening moments, and they still run 1-2. The 24 and the 3. Every team has changed drivers. We've had early pit stops, but it stopped raining, and we might see a dry track at some points.
We're going to need a lot of running to make this a dry racetrack, but it's definitely going to keep drying out. You'll see the lap times get quicker. Just the last lap, Connor DeFilippi, running 4th in GTLM, set the fastest lap of the race by over a second. So he's on the move, starting to run down the front 3.
I think what you could get, AJ, thinking about it, if it doesn't dry out enough for slicks, but if you get a drying line, particularly through the banking where it's going to drain, and then suddenly on well-worn rubber, the key then is tire temperatures. You might have to do a pit stop to put fresh rubber on just because you're worried about blowing and exploding a right rear, for example.
Riding on board the number 14 Aimvasser Sullivan Lexus of Jack Hawksworth, now running in 5th, chasing Townsend Bell. Mario Farnbacher is now leading in the 86 Acura. Here's why they dropped from the lead to 5th.
You see the door netting there, the window netting is twisted, but look at this in the panic there with the mechanic. I think his goggles are starting to steam up. Look, he tries to get them off his eyes so we can see what he's doing. And Jack Hawksworth just can't believe it. From the lead, suddenly sitting still on pit lane.
Yeah, and that is something quite honestly, you wouldn't expect to have an issue with. You'd be so nervous about getting the belts done in the quick amount of time, getting everything set. The window net's the last thing you would really think about. So kind of crazy that got wrapped so much, and when he saw it being wrapped, he couldn't get it to connect, and they lost a lot of time. And we can see here Jack Hawksworth trying to make some of that time back up, trying to get around his teammate Townsend Bell.
And they're not too far away from the BMW of Bill Auberlen, running third in class, but it's 15 seconds up the road to get the Acura of Mario Farnbacher. And now the 44. We saw for a moment there, a little bit slow in the GRT Magnus Lamborghini. John Potter started. Andy Lally has taken over. John did a nice job in his opening stint.
Cal, you think Townsend, you would assume that Lexus, Aim Vassar Sullivan would say, all right, Jack Hawksworth, a little bit quicker, maybe let him go get around you. But Townsend is also fighting for this championship. So he's not going to make it that easy. He doesn't want to keep losing points, but you see there the calls made to the team. Hawksworth quicker. He's around Townsend now and going to start trying to move forward to go catch Bill Auberlen.
Yeah, and we spoke to Townsend earlier about it's all risk, max attack right now, because they had a couple of problematic races after the big win at Road America. But right now, Townsend is realistic enough to know, listen, if Jack's a little bit quicker, if I'm struggling in these conditions, there's an hour on the board. I'm not going to help, hinder him and have him sit back there.
Well, that may be his best chance, too, to let Jack be the rabbit, run with him, and then he can mix it up with others and still get back and play. And for the 12 car, really it's the Sprint Cup Championship is the only thing that they have a realistic chance at. Calvin, the 14 is very unique because Aaron Telitz has driven in both of these cars. If they stay together, Telitz and Hawksworth won't share the championship. Telitz has a 2-point advantage.
Yeah, and we spoke to Jack about this on the announcement that they would be separated for the 6-hour Road Atlanta. And he said, I don't care, but after the race when Telitz suddenly had a better result, you got to think he'd be wishing that he gets an opportunity. I think what Jimmy will do, the Aim Vassar Sullivan group, they'll split him for Sebring, I would think, to double their options if they're fighting out with the 86 in the championship.
It would make sense. You're not sure if maybe sponsorship has something to do with that, being in that car, but yeah, it's to double your chances going into Sebring, it would be a big deal.
Well, let's hear from Aaron Telitz, who had a masterful first stint and has really been a fantastic find for that team moving into full-time status. He's with Dylan.
Yeah, he really did have a nice first stint there, Kevin. And Aaron, heard you on the radio talking about just the difficulty of kind of avoiding the puddles and finding the spots on the racetrack that allowed you to have as much grip as possible. How tough was it out there?
Yeah, it was super tough, honestly. Like, there was puddles most parts of the track. Tough to put the power down, but I felt like we were managing it pretty well. Our Lexus RCF GT3 car was handling those puddles pretty well. We were able to put out a sizable gap there before the first full course yellow.
Well, and now it's stopped raining, thankfully, but Jack has some work to do after a slow pit stop. Do you guys feel like the car has what you need it to do to be able to drive back up there? Long road to hoe, obviously, but is the car good enough?
Yeah, I think it's a long ways to go. Obviously, we had that little bobble on pit lane, but I think the race is still going to be pretty wild here. I don't think we're done with full course yellows yet, so plenty of time for Jack to make that up.
We talked too about the darkness of the infield. Is it dark back there? Is it really dark?
It is dark back there, but it's better than it was when we were here for the test. They didn't have those spotlights up back there, and it's like a really big contrast going from the oval, which is really well lit, and then you get into the infield, and it's a lot darker. So like it's the change in brightness that gets you.
Thanks, Aaron. He did a good job. His teammates got a little bit of work to do now as they run fourth in that 14 car, but Aaron's job's done for the day.
A former champion in the road to Indy, a 3-time Indy Lights winner, has found a home in the Imsa WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. We're seeing now GTLM cars dealing with GTD traffic, a little more challenging than normal in these circumstances.
Look at the red BMW. Connor De Filippi up that little off has suddenly got the hammer down and has caught the whole pack.
Yeah, the Corvettes were stuck behind Paul Holton there, struggling to get around him. You can see trying to make the move here. Connor De Filippi might get around the outside. This is a tough pass right here.
Oh, you got to be careful unless Paul Holton has a spotter. You're not going to see him with a spray, and now he's on your flank.
He'll get the drive off the corner here and make the pass. But yeah, this is what the GTLM cars are going to have to face, fighting through the GTD traffic, especially in these conditions, and having ABS on the GTD cars makes it even more difficult to try to get around them, especially into the brake zones.
It is still very much a four-car fight overall in GTLM, with the BMW of John Edwards leading and the Acura from Meyer Shank of Mario Farbacher in front in GTD. You can catch action from NASCAR, Imsa, American Flat Track, and more with Track Pass on NBC Sports Gold. Don't miss a green flag live and on demand as well. Learn more at NBCSports.com/TrackPass. And that's where, for example, next week for Motul Petit Le Mans, you can see the entire 10 hours nonstop, along with coverage on various NBC Sports outlets, including NBCSN. Well, John Edwards still leads in the BMW. A Corvette is still second, but the second Corvette is no longer third. Here's what happened a moment ago.
Yeah, Connor looked to the inside. Tommy took it in real deep, got around that Acura, but took it in too deep and couldn't get it turned there, and Connor just pounced. He's on the move right now. Forward with Connor. Same moment, watch this. Tommy just slides out wide, just a four-wheel drift there, lost the front end. Lucky to keep it out of the fence, AJ.
Yeah, for sure. It's that corner's deceiving, wet or dry. It just feels like you can drive in so hard to it, but if you get in just that little bit extra, car steps out. And then with this wet, once he did, he got lucky he saved it, because as he tried to get close to the wall and save it, that's where the puddle is. Great job saving it, but definitely a good move by Connor DeFilippi.
So let's do a reset now and catch you up with the McLaren through the field, starting first with Parker.
Right, and you see John Edwards, that number 24 BMW. He's there by virtue of his teammate Jesse Krohn getting that awesome start in the first couple laps, starting the race in fourth, but getting to the lead really quickly in those first couple laps because the tires on those BMWs come in so quickly. That has been a trend all weekend long. Behind him, trying to chase him down, Antonio Garcia in that number 3 Corvette, the most recent winner in the series in GTLM and one of the most dominant cars throughout this entire time. Just been managing the gap to John Edwards. They're not quite able to catch him as we start to see some drying conditions here. And then Connor De Filippi in that 25 BMW, that awesome pass he showed on Tommy Milner. He sort of gamed him into that. He got a run out of the last chicane, sort of stuck his nose and just forced Tommy a little bit into that mistake there where he went wide into turn 1. And then as we saw in 4th there, Tommy Milner just not quite having the speed in that number 4 Corvette. You know, they've just been lacking that 3 car. And I asked him, you know, last week, when we last raced at Mid-Ohio, what was the difference between you and the 3? It seemed like you were close. He said it was just the first 5 laps. We were slower by about a second over the first 5 laps, but from that point on, we were even. He said we just have to find how to get some takeoff speed in this number 4. And then the leader in GTD, Mario Vonbacher and that Meyer-Shank Racing Acura, they are in the lead, but they have been slowly losing the lead. They came out of the pits and from that restart with almost a 9-second lead, but it's been eaten into consistently by Bill Auberlen at 96 and Patrick Long in the 16, Dylan.
And Parker, you see Bill Auberlen there in that Turner BMW. This wet weather, as we got a car on the wall, Paul Holton, it appears, in the 76. So back to Bill Auberlen. They like the wet weather, guys. That feels like where the BMW shines, and showing it right now.
So let's check out the Compass McLaren now with Paul Holton and what happened to him.
This is the turn 7-8 complex. You go down the hill. You can see just probably carrying just a little bit too much speed. The car stepped out. There's also that, you see that blue painted line. It goes all the way around the corner. Let's listen here. So what I think happened there, Calvin, is that blue painted line wraps inside the wall. It's really hard to see. But it looked like he got in there, car bounced a little bit, was fine, touched the paint, stepped out, and sound like hard contact there into the wall.
Yeah, it's hard to tell that kind of soft barrier there that they work with, and damage doesn't look too bad. He might have got away with it, AJ. It's kind of a flat hit to the side, kind of ripped the number panel back a little bit.
But going back to what Parker was saying there a little bit, Mario Vonbacher had a big lead after the pit stop sequence. But Bill Auberlen at times running 2 seconds a lap faster. Mario just ran his fastest lap of the race, but that's still 0.8 slower than Bill. Jack Hawksworth is eating in the lead. Pat Long's doing a great job. So Mario, I don't know if he's just being a little bit careful early on, knowing he had a big lead, but definitely getting the lead eaten up. And as we talk about the lead, Antonio Garcia has started to run down John Edwards.
They got a bit of clear track here, so been fighting through traffic a little bit. Ironically, getting back, I did text with Bill Auberlen a little bit earlier this afternoon, and I said, how is it in the wet? He said, we're good in the damaged conditions, but full wet, the Acura's better. But right now, seems like he's got the edge.
And if it doesn't rain anymore, this is going to be 2 very different events. Full-on wet, treacherous conditions to a drying, I don't know if we'll ever see a fully dry track, but certainly a pretty dry track in another 45 minutes or so. It's still BMW, Corvette, BMW and Corvette, and Acura and BMW and GTD. Stay with us from the Roval. NASCAR and Imsa together at the Charlotte Roval this weekend in the Motul 100% synthetic Grand Prix. And while the BMW of John Edwards continues to lead in GT Le Mans, you saw all kinds of action in nonstop and a change for the lead in GTD.
Orbland to the inside. Farnbacher didn't want to give it up. Well, look, he goes straight here now. We spoke to the race director earlier in the day. You're supposed to hit some part of the apex curbing to not warrant a stop and hold. Well, not a stop and hold, you have to come for a standstill. If you cut through either one of this back chicane or the front chicane, the apex is way to his left.
Yeah, we're trying to get confirmation because in the Xfinity race, you have to stop on the front straightaway, so I don't know if it's the same rule. Parker, you have more.
Well, guys, we talked about how he lost that lead. I ran up and asked Mike Shank, what's going on with the 86? He just looked at me and said, we don't have the pace. And then as Bill Alwyn went by him, Mario came on the radio and said, I just don't have the same amount of grip, in which they told him, just focus on your stuff. But they have not relayed telling him to stop and do a stop and go in any respect there. So I don't think they feel like they need to get that full stop done.
He gave up a lot of time in there, so maybe that works out the same.
Yeah, I mean, if they're basing it off of time loss, he for sure wasn't gaining anything by doing that. But in the Xfinity race, the rule is clear. If you shortcut that chicane, no matter if you lose a lot of time anyway, you have to go to the front straightaway and stop. So that's what we're trying to get confirmation. If Imsa is doing it differently or if they are making the same rule, because if so, Mario Farnbacher might have to do a drive-through.
And I think the key for Farnbacher, for Meyer Shank Racing, is to really just get on the horn to Mario and say, think about the championship, think about where the 14 car is running. They're running in fourth, you're still in second. It's still a good day right now. Don't throw it all away, even though Oberlin's a bit quicker right now.
For sure, and Jack Hawksworth, that pace that he had early is starting to fade a little bit. He's running a little bit off the pace compared to what Bill Auberlen doing. The problem is Bill Auberlen right now is about a second to a second and a half faster than the rest of the GTD field, but in Mario Farnbacher's case, he doesn't have to worry about Bill Auberlen and Robbie Foley for the championship.
Oberlin's running laps as quick as the GT Le Mans leaders, and we talk about the advantage that a GTD car has with ABS brakes, and certainly Bill is using it to his full advantage right now.
That 14 yellow Ambassador Sullivan Lexus is 3 points behind the 86 in the GTD championship, or at least one of the drivers, Aaron Thielitz. Jack Hawksworth is 5 points back because they've been split up throughout the year. On board with Hawksworth right now, running in fourth.
We talk about Bill Auberlen being here back when it was in 2000. Cal, what was it like back in the 71 race?
Oh, well, you're not far off. I did run here first year I came to the States in 85, mate, so I know you're teasing, but you're pretty spot on. Wasn't a lot different, actually. You went actually back up a hill between turn 4 and 5. It was a little bit more twisty through the infield. And they changed the elevation through this sector a little bit as well.
Yeah, I was the first one to test this racetrack when they were talking about making it the Roval. So this section, there's actually another section you can see right there. You could turn in left, make another right-hander, then have a really tight left-hand corner. But they took that away. So we are hearing right now that conversation we had, Mario Farnbacher is going to have to stop in one of these chicanes. Otherwise, he's going to get a drive-through penalty. And that's just an unforced error, Calvin. Got to know who you're racing. Yeah. Bill has run you down by several seconds, and he's made a mistake. We see here, he's not going to make this corner. Bill has got to the inside. Mario trying to be aggressive, which is what he's known for. But at this point, live to fight another day, and now it's going to cost him a stop and go either on the chicane, or if he doesn't, he's going to do a drive-through. And Bill Auberlen is the quickest guy in the race car. You see that? He stopped on the front straightaway. You can see Pat Long has went by him. He's going to stay maybe just ahead of Jack Hawksworth, but Jack should be right on him, Calvin.
Yeah, I think he only lost one spot, but he was in no man's land. There was nowhere to go with that move there, so he needed to give up a little bit earlier, tuck in behind Bill, and just continue.
And on top of it, Bill had run him down from 9 seconds back. You may hold him off for that corner, but you're not going to hold him off with, at that point, 44 minutes to go.
So Pat Long moves into second now.
They're
on the Wright Motorsports right Porsche.
They've had 2 podiums in a row, and they're not that far out the championship lead, Kev. I think they're only 12 points back coming into this race today. Yeah. Hardwick was sensational in qualifying today. There was a red flag. He missed it, took the red flag twice. They parked him for 5 minutes, and he still qualified right up in the top 5.
Well, this is still Ryan Hartwick's first full-time season in the Imsa WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He had that knee injury last year that cut his season short. So he's making the progress that he hoped for, and we know how good Pat Long is.
Yeah, and he was very excited about coming here because he said it's an even playing field. I go to most of the circuits, everyone's run there multiple times. I'm learning it for the first time possibly. So coming here, he thought it was an even platform, and he certainly performed that in qualifying today.
All right, let's go back to pit lane. Parker, tell us what it's like outside right now.
Well, the thing is, it's not raining. It's actually dry, and it's been dry for about 10 minutes or so right now. And I think what we're seeing in this GTLM battle is it starts to tighten up, especially amongst those top three. It's a game of cat and mouse a little bit, right? Because as the track dries, those wet tires are going to not want to be run on that dry surface. We see dry areas on the racetrack and dry lines. Then you're going to be searching for wet and to get those tires colder. So I think this is a bit of cat and mouse in how much they're trying to protect those tires and take care of them as we get later toward the end of this race. We'll be right back with more from the Charlotte Roval.
The 2020 season has provided unexpected new challenges for Michelin, like racing in the heat of summer at Daytona and Sebring, and now what is for them a new circuit here at the Roval at Charlotte. These challenges provide valuable new learning and additional broad data collection. Michelin engineers love having 10 or even 20 years of data from tracks like Road Atlanta, Sebring, or Laguna Seca to analyze and explore tracks' anomalies and differences. But today at the Roval, they're basically starting from scratch. It's been 20 years since Michelin and Imsa last raced here, and the cars and tires and the circuit have all changed dramatically since then. In fact, only 2 of the drivers and none of the teams entered back then are in the field here today. The track surfaces, banking, corner radius and cambers, length of the straightaways, and transitions all go into these teams' preparations and simulations, along with anticipated track temperature and ambient temperature. The Michelin engineers do have a little bit of data from some teams' tests, and just like when they develop new tires for the road where they have millions of miles of data, they have lots of simulators, simulations, and some very experienced engineers.
Back in 2000, that ALMS race, it was a BMW driven by Jörg Mueller and J.J. Lato that won that event.
Roval finished fourth, I believe.
He did. Well, back up front, the BMW in 2020 is leading this event. John Edwards, who makes his home now nearby in the Charlotte area. And the Motul 100% synthetic Grand Prix overall biggest movers, John Edwards, from 4th to 1st. And give a lot of credit to his teammate Jesse Krohn, who got that done at the beginning. And then the 57 Heinricher MSR Acura, Alvaro Parent. Misha Goikberg started. They've moved up several spots, running in 7th place right now.
This is intensifying here. Garcia's definitely honing in on John Edwards right now. He seems to be just marginally quicker. Felipe just sitting there in their shadows a little bit. His pace is stymied a little bit, AJ, over the last handful of laps.
Yeah, this battle is great. If you look at Tommy Milner, he's only 5 seconds back, and he's running some of the fastest laps of this group. So we're going to see this happen. We got 34 minutes to go. This track is going to continually change each lap, dry out just a little bit more. We're going to see what car is tuned up better for that.
My concern is with running these wet weather tires throughout the whole course of this race, if it does start to really dry in the banking, AJ, this isn't like Daytona. I mean, there's a lot less degree of banking. You got 31 degrees at Daytona, 24 here. So through NASCAR 3 and 4 there, you're really loading that car up, and you can see those guys running like in the second lane there to try and take some of the scrub off the tires.
Yeah, you really are. It just feels like the banking feels so much tighter and higher than compared to Daytona, even though it's not. But Parker, you have more.
Well, guys, as we watch this T2M battle, I mentioned before we went to break how it's a bit of cat and mouse in terms of protecting those wet tires a little bit, but there's also an element of fuel save in here, right? Because in the wet, they got enough fuel, or they used such little fuel, you could go so far, but as this track dries, it gets faster and faster. I'm hearing some of the team engineers get on the radio and say, hey, that's a little, we need to make sure we hit this number. So there's an element of, as this track dries, how do you guard that fuel and hit that fuel number, but also know that the track is getting faster and your competitors have that speed?
It seemed pretty close. They came in with, what, about an hour and 15 minutes remaining?
Yeah, I think it's about 77 minutes on the board, and they told me about 64 in green and dry conditions, so you get massive fuel save. Where you get most fuel save is when you just back out of the gas down the straightaways, and you're doing that in the wet conditions, obviously, because you can't get to the brakes as late, and you just off-throttle a lot more. So a lot of drivers try to do that in the dry to save fuel and shorten up the fuel stop a little bit, but in the wet it naturally happens. So it's going to be squeaky tight, and it's hard to really get a true gauge on it as well.
And something that I just thought about that's going to happen, it's very humid tonight at the racetrack. So the track starts to dry, and you think, okay, I'm just going to keep getting more grip. But at some point, Calvin, with that humidity, it doesn't get a ton drier, and the track almost gets slicker. So you're going to see this transition. Okay, the laps are getting faster. You think the track's drying. All of a sudden, the track just feels like it slickens up because that oil starts to come up through the racetrack where the cars are running and practice and all that rubber. So this track will gain some grip, and then all of a sudden it feels like it's just going to disappear.
Last lap through, Edwards laid down the fastest lap of the race in the 1 in 26 bracket. Garcia not far behind him, and Garcia looks even closer, so Garcia could establish a new fast lap on this one.
By the way, just an update on the number 44 GRT Magnus Lamborghini. We saw them slow earlier on. They have now retired. I'm told that they had a tire issue and some damage, and I think maybe one factor that comes in is that this is a really quick turnaround. So if something's not right, let's don't destroy the car even more, because most of the teams are just going straight to Road Atlanta from here to prepare for next week.
Yeah, it's a very short week, getting ready for that big endurance race.
Bill Oberlin right here. Huge lead. Got over a 19-second lead. It's a great battle in second in GTD. You got Pat Long, Mario Farnbacher, Jack Hawksworth, all within about a second and a half of each other. But Bill Oberlin consistently, Calvin, running a second to a second and a half faster than the rest of the field.
And remember, the last time there was a GT-only race, it was a record-breaking, historic win for Robbie Foley, and most notably for Bill Oberlin, number 61 all-time. And he's far from done yet. He's got a look at number 62 with a 20-second lead in class here at the Roval in Charlotte. Imsa Racing on NBCSN is brought to you by Mazda, Feel Alive, by WeatherTech, the ultimate American-made vehicle protection, by Acura, precision crafted performance, and by Motul, 100% synthetic lubricants, powering performance for over 165 years. It's a GT-only race at the Roval at Charlotte this weekend. 3 different manufacturers in GTLM. They are the leaders, the BMW of John Edwards, the Corvette of Antonio Garcia, and 9 different manufacturers in GTD, led by a BMW of Bill Auberlen, going for win number 62 in Imsa. These are the leaders working their way overall through GTD traffic right now in a drying racetrack, but not nearly dry enough to even think about going to Michelin slicks.
Yeah, Lawson-Oshbach peels in. I think some of these cars are going to start to come in. I think the tires are getting worn out, and also gives you a chance to throw a little bit more fuel on board as well. It's tight on fuel and tight on tires now to get to the finish tonight.
See the battle here for second place in GTD. Mario Fahnbacher starting to run down Pat Long. And that's the biggest thing, as you say there, Calvin. These tires are going to start to go away. You can see it's still very wet, but what we're talking about is on the banking. It puts so much load into these Michelin tires, it's going to start to degrade them, and you can see them starting to slide around. Parker.
And that's exactly what's happening to the Wright Motorsports Porsche there. Pat Long, he just came on the radio about a lap ago and said, I'm losing the front tires. Give me something positive. They told him he was better in the first 2 sectors, but losing in the final sector there, just struggling with the wear on those front tires as this track continues to dry.
Look at Hawksworth on the attack. He's all over the back of Mario Fahnbacher. This has championship implications. Comes into this race, he personally 5 points behind, his teammate 3 points behind in the chase.
And Pat Long, they've done a great job, him and Ryan Hardwick, to fight back in this championship, being ultra consistent. They're only 12 back, so neither of these cars are going to cut Mario Fahnbacher anything on the racetrack, and they're really going to be aggressive, force him to try to make a mistake.
Up top is overall in GTLM, the BMW of John Edwards, the GTD battle in the top 4 below. Remember, the 14 Lexus dominated early, but in the driver change between Tielitz and Hawksworth, trouble with the belts, lost the lead, fell back to 5th. Now he's, though, right there. 2, 3, and 4 are together with Pat Long, Mario Fonbacher, and Jack Hawksworth.
Yeah, and you're just talking about the tires starting to go away, these Michelin wets. The group of cars here, they're starting to run about a half a second to almost over a second slower than what they were running at their fastest point. So the tires are starting to degrade just a little bit. Still running consistent times, but definitely starting to struggle.
Now, if they pit, they're not going to be pitting for slicks. They just need another set of wet, grooved Michelin tires, right?
Yeah, I don't think you can put slicks on right now. There's just too much water. As Garcia looks for the inside on Edwards for the lead. Through turn 7, down into turn 8.
Edwards.
Can he get the power down? He carves the corner. He gets to the inside.
Yeah, great call there, Calvin. Edwards struggling getting the front of his BMW to turn through section turn 7 and 8. There you see Antonio Garcia. That Corvette's really working well. Got Edwards trying to go back at Garcia, but I think Antonio is going to roll through this chicane and start to drive away.
They started up front. The number 3 Corvette has won 3 of the last 4. And now with Antonio Garcia at the controls, in front again and gapping the BMW just a little bit.
Look at the twitch there. He tried to bring the car back across to get it in a straight line for the brake zone for the turn 10 chicane. Little twitch there. Tires are going away.
You can see that Corvette of Antonio Garcia able just to work the front of the car through the chicane, get that car turned right, back left, get the power down. Parker.
Hey guys, this is what the Corvette is so good at. It's that long run pace. It treats its tires so well. This is what all the Corvette drivers told me about this car's strengths compared to maybe the BMW that's better early to run. When it comes down to tire degradation, when you're in a scenario like this, trying to take care of those wet weather tires, so soft, you need a car that's easy on the tires, and that's what this Corvette's doing.
But they are talking Garcia through this race. They're reminding him of fuel all of the time. Tires is a concern for everyone right now.
So when the track is drying, as we see Hawksworth working on Farnbacher now, you're looking for some damp spots. AJ, through the infield section, can you see well enough to find a puddle to cool down the tires?
Yeah, through the infield here, as we watch on board with Jack Hawksworth, you're not going to have to find any damp spots. You really are not having to find any damp spots in general because it's still super wet. But the problem is, listen to Jack try to get on the power here. Gets a great run on Mario Farnbacher. But you can see here through the banking, it puts so much load, especially in the right side tires. That's where it's starting to wear these tires out. And I think in John Edwards' case, the right front's really starting to wear out, Calvin, and that's why he's not able to get that car turned.
Yeah, and Hawksworth is quicker than Mario right now. He's just got to figure out a solution to this puzzle. He can really carve the inside apex there of turn 8 to get up onto the banking. But it's really tough here to make a move, AJ. Those chicanes come at you quickly. And if the driver in front just positions the car correctly, there's nowhere to go with it.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say, you could see Pat Long running the second lane on the banking, trying to be a little easier with his tires, not turning the steering wheel as much, doing everything he can to try to save these Michelin wets.
2, 3, 4 in GTD in class. Porsche, Acura, Lexus, and they're about 18 seconds behind the BMW of Bill Auberlen. Corvette got the lead over BMW. Antonio Garcia leads overall as we're headed down the stretch from the Roval in Charlotte. There's more to come from the Roval in Charlotte tomorrow. The end of the road for 4 playoff continues. NASCAR comes home to Charlotte for a critical elimination race. Who makes the round of 8? Find out tomorrow, 2:30 on NBC with the NASCAR Cup Series. We ride on board with Jack Hawksworth, who showed very well last year in the Xfinity Series in his one-off event at Mid-Ohio. Bill Auberlen continues to lead in GTD by 20 seconds. And Pat Long continues to chase him, and he's got a long ways to go. Dylan, tell us what's going on with Auberlen.
Well, and Cal mentioned this a little bit ago, too, but this is exactly what the team has echoed as well. These conditions on track right now suit this car and this team just about perfectly. It's not really raining, but the track is still plenty wet and damp from all the weather that we got today. So that's in part why they've been able to drive out to this lead. But keep in mind, too, as Parker has also mentioned, as the track continues to dry, the fuel mileage equation continues to come into play as well. So they feel pretty good. Talked to Robbie Foley, the co-driver. He said, we're not really worried about the fuel mileage, but you can never really be too safe. So with a 20-second lead, they can afford to conserve a little bit if they need to. So that's really their only concern right now. The tire wear is pretty non-existent. Robbie said Bill has been really quiet on the radio about that. So they feel good about that, just trying to make sure they can nurse this car home and do what they need to do to get another victory.
See here, Mario Fahnbacher still trying to get around Pat Long, doing everything he can. Gotten away from Jack Hawksworth just a little bit. Gives him a little bit of breath now. He can look forward, try to find a way around Pat Long.
And this is huge in the championship. If he could get Pat between he and Hawksworth, take the pressure off and obviously gain him a couple of points as well as he run wides there. No track limits in force here throughout this whole circuit. Just letting the boys play whatever pavement is available to them.
You can see as Bill Auberlen went out of the shot, as we were looking at that Turner Motorsports BMW, it's starting to rain just a little bit more again, so
that needs to switch the balance a little bit in terms of who's got the pace.
Yeah, and these drivers, I mean, and that's the thing, if it starts to really pick up, it's hard to tell on your window when you're going this fast. I mean, you just see obviously raindrops like Calvin, so you got to start talking to your team. How heavy is it raining? And then you can start trying to predict what each corner is going to be like, as we see Mario trying to dive under Pat Long.
Oh, this is really sketchy stuff in terms of the big picture of the championship. Mario wants every single point he can gain. He obviously had to come to a stop there for skipping through the chicane that one lap. That cost him the position to Pat Long. He'd love to get that back. But the important thing is keeping Hawksworth off his tail.
I think Mario's a little bit quicker here as they use all of that blue curbing. We call them the turtles because it's basically like a turtle shell when you hit it. It is rough. It bounces your head around in the car. But if you can get the car right over it, you can find a little bit of speed and grip.
A little further back in GTD, running in 6th, this is teenager Roman DeAngelis, still 19 years old, from Canada. He's a 2-time Porsche GT3 Cup USA champ, finished second in the Canadian class. In both platinum and gold, he's had a lot of experience, and he's doing a nice job. Ian James started the race. Remember, he's one of the 2 that ran here back in 2000 at ALMS. And Roman is getting some solid footing in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Made his debut last year as an 18-year-old. Finished up front in the Rolex 24 in GTD.
Yeah, I spoke to Ian this weekend about Roman. He said he is really good, and Ian's been around a lot of really great young up-and-coming drivers. He said he's got all of the tools in his kit to get the job done. First time in a front-engine car this year, AJ. He's been used to running Porsches most of his life.
And it definitely takes some getting used to, just the balance, the way the car stops, the way it gets on the nose. Everything about it is different, but Roman's doing a great job, as we see here. Back to this battle. This is your championship contenders. Keep talking about, you see Pat Long. He hit that little bit of, in the middle of the banking. Caught the, just that slight section where they've really had to redo the banking and fill it in, and it's really slick. So call them the seams. It's hard to get over them. I hit them a couple of times in my race, about crashed. So you saw Pat hit that, car step out from him.
9-10 laps here to try and hang on to this position. Would be their 3rd consecutive podium run for Ryan Hardwick and Pat Long. Pat celebrating 17 years as a Porsche factory driver. Just continues to deliver.
27 career wins. Hasn't won in a couple of years. Also, by the way, no more concern about the track drying out and the rain tires totally going away. Now, they may still go away because they've been on the cars for a long time, but there's a pretty steady, decently heavy rain going on right now.
Garcia's taken off a little bit at the front, but this is a great battle. We're seeing develop Tommy Milner trying to chase down Connor DeFilippi, and John Edwards. BMW's run second and third right now.
Hawksworth fourth in GTD. This is 2, 3, 4 right now, and they've been stuck together for a half hour or so.
Guys, you saw the onboard there of Jack Hawksworth and how close he was going into that backstretch chicane. Look at how much distance he lost there on the exit. That's where the Lexus cars feels like they've been getting beat all evening long. Obviously, they were up front earlier tonight, then had that pit road miscue with both cars that really put them behind the 8-ball that they haven't been able to recover from. But that's really kind of the catalyst, that pit road issue, and then also not being able to get off that backstretch chicane just hasn't enabled them to really pass any cars since they were mired back in the 4th and 5th spot. So that's been the biggest issue.
Well, that rain is coming down, so I think this is far from settled.
Yeah, and that's one of the keys. Their front engine car with the Lexus, just trying to get the power down at the rear wheels that don't have the weight over them. It's always a concern, AJ.
You can see Jack Hawksworth. He's trying to figure out, okay, where's Mario Fahnbacher weak? He knows Mario is going to be looking ahead as well. He wants to get around Pat Long, so Jack is just trying to figure out where he's weak. You can see he's really strong in the banking, so turn 8 here. If he can get this run off the corner, it's decent. But he's trying to hang on to the back of Mario because he knows he's stronger in the brake zone.
Problem is Mario's just going to hang in the middle of the road or left side if Jack does get closer to him there. Just not enough of a run down at this chicane. 4-car out.
What's going on with Tommy Milner?
Big crash.
That's the entrance of pit road right there.
Hey,
Maybe
guys,
he lost it coming
on
through the
radio and said
banking.
Yeah, he just said it snapped immediately.
If a tire went down, I think that's coming around the banking, AJ.
Yeah, that's as you come off of what we call NASCAR 40s. Listen here. Oh, the tire had to go. Something broke or the tire went because car just doesn't snap like that. You can hear that pop. So maybe that's the culprit if the right rear broke initially or what, but that was not on Tommy Milner.
No.
Running 4th.
I was concerned about that in terms of in the wet, trying to get to pit lane with the painted stripe there and that kind of end of the pit wall kind of coming into play like it did for Tommy right there.
These guys got to get this car fixed up. I mean, we race Petit Le Mans next Saturday, 7 days, so a lot of work, unfortunately, for the Corvette team.
So this is a short yellow. The pits will not open, and we will have a dash to the finish coming up. Final break. It's nonstop. Stay with us and find out who wins on the Roval in Charlotte in Imsa. at the Roval in Charlotte. Kevin Lee, A.J. Allmendinger, Calvin Fish, Dylan Welch, and Parker Kligerman. Late yellow inside the final minutes, less than 10 minutes ago. The number 4 Corvette of Tommy Milner, very heavy contact. And there's still a lot of work to do before we're ready to go racing again, and running out of time with just under 8 minutes remaining. Let's look at pit in here and diagnose what happened.
Well, something's already popped there. And then you see him trying to get it back under control, and suddenly it just veers straight for the end of that pit wall.
Oh, right there. And he's already had the heavy damage.
Cal, it has to be the right rear that broke there.
But it looked like the tire was up, so I'm thinking it was a rear suspension. That would be my guess. Because when the car just sat there crippled, it looked like there was still air in that right rear. And as you mentioned in the break, AJ, none of the bodywork was torn up. If the tire suddenly let go, it'd kind of butcher its way through all of that rear carbon.
That's just such a high-speed section in the middle of 3 and 4, even in the wet. They probably have to be running around 120, 130 right in the middle of the banking there, and to have the car just snap unexpectedly. Fortunately, it was a bigger size impact, but it wasn't heavy to the front of the car where Tommy would have really taken an impact, or the driver's side door, it really seemed like. So see him get out of the car, and sounds like we're going to the green here.
Boy, who's going to send it? Who's got nothing to lose? Someone's
They are
go after
headed
Garcia
to the backstretch chicane. So we've got just a moment, and I want to take a second to recognize our leader, Rich O'Connor. This is his last night working with us, and Rich is one of the people personally that got me into television, and he's led us on IndyCar and Imsa, and we are very thankful for Rich's contributions to NBC Sports. He's not just a co-worker, he's our friend. He's fantastic at his job, so salute to Rich. I know Lee Diffie, if he was here, would want to say the same thing, so just a moment to recognize him. And now we settle in for a fantastic 5+ minutes of racing from the Roval to decide it. Corvette versus BMW for the overall win. GTLM and that yellow Corvette of Antonio Garcia leads them back to green. He got through the chicane and into turn number 1.
And he is taken off here a little bit. Edwards looked pretty feisty there, like he's going to give it a go. Someone's got to send it on Garcia, otherwise this championship is pretty much sealed. Even though there's 3 rounds to go with such a small GT Le Mans field right now, they are really in a position where they could seal it after Petit next week.
The 86, the Meyer-Shank Acura, Mario Fahnbacher, according to our timing and scoring.
Where is he?
He's down, and it looks like about 8th. Let's ride on board here.
Just a moment ago, up top of your screen.
He gets hit.
And he gets absolutely drilled.
So Hawksworth behind him at that point still?
I think that would have been Hawksworth's restart rate behind him. Hard to tell, but he definitely gets drilled.
Parker, what do you know?
Well, guys, right before they went green from that restart, he was complaining how the front tires just didn't have the grip under braking. He was talking to the team about how he just could not get the front grip, and he was not able to brake as late as he wanted to. And I think, as you saw, he had a large gap to Patrick Long there in front of him, the 16 Wright Motorsports Porsche. I just don't think he was able to get in there as deep as he wanted to, Pride.
So let's now ride with Hawksworth. So if the car in front of you doesn't go, is it still your fault?
Well, you could see there Mario maybe was on the brakes a little bit early. Jack tried to go to the inside, otherwise he's going to run him over, and had nowhere to go with that contact, but they made the call. He's going to get a drive-through.
And this is going to be huge for Pat Long, Ryan Hardwick, because you got Mario Fahnbacher back in 8th. Jack Hawksworth getting a penalty. That's going to hurt himself and Aaron Thielen. So championship game on for Pat Long and Ryan Hardwick if they can finish even in second here.
12 points in back of the 86 was the 16 coming in, and still 3 races to go for the overall championship. Just 1 more to go in the Sprint Cup, which the 14 had a pretty comfortable lead in.
And they'd gained 9 points on Fahnbacher, so that could cut it down to maybe 3 or 4 points heading into next week.
Look at here, this is the battle for possibly the podium. Jack Hawksworth going to have to do a drive-through. Got Roman DeAngelis doing everything he can to get around Townsend Bell. I know for a fact Townsend's not the easiest guy to pass, but Roman doing a great job in this Aston Martin.
Townsend is used to dealing with teenagers at home. How does he deal with Roman DeAngelis here?
Roman's working him over, and he distracts Townsend a little bit, and he misses his marks, and he is through. What a move. Just moved his headlights around in the rearview mirror, Townsend Bell, and Townsend struggling to get back up to speed there. Maybe his tires are just past their best, hanging on.
Got Alvaro Perrin and the Heinrich Racing MSR Acura now trying to get around Townsend. You can definitely tell, like you said, Calvin, Townsend struggling on these tires. Right behind them, Spencer Pompelli, great run in that Audi.
Yeah, TB's just hanging on right now. Car's gone away from him in the last few laps. Unfortunate. Podium was there for the taking. I tell you, with Farnbacher, I mean, Hawksworth having to do that drive-through is going to put the Aston Martin on the podium for the first time this year, potentially.
Now we're going to come to the white flag next time by. What if Jack Hawksworth does not serve the penalty?
Well, he's only allowed to pass the stripe 2 times without serving it. Otherwise, they'll stop scoring it.
This would be the second time potentially just coming up.
I think he's got to dive in this time. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble.
Antonio Garcia has done a fantastic job on the restart. Definitely could see before the yellow that Corvette had found the pace. Working well on these Michelin wet tires. John Edwards, Connor DeFilippe, they haven't been able to do anything to challenge Antonio Garcia and Calvin. This 3 team just feels like they're on a roll, everything going right for them.
Unbelievable. Potential 5th victory here on the season. And 6 out of 7 since the restart of the Daytona Sprint Race in July. This is for a brand new race car. I mean, unbelievable what this C8R has done on its debut season.
One more time around. About 2 miles to go for Corvette to continue their domination in 2020. By the way, if Hawksworth does not serve the penalty, it is a time penalty, and he will serve it here. So major shakeup in the points championship. And the heart of racing, Aston Martin, number 23, is in a podium position right now in GTD. Pat Long, though, is within a couple of seconds of Bill Auberlen after the restart. That's not totally decided yet.
You can see there Mario trying to be aggressive, get around Spencer Pompelli, try to get a couple of those points back. That's 2 races in a row, Calvin.
I know.
That with a couple laps to go, they've been taken out.
Incredible. Mike Schenk has just got to be so frustrated right now. They've had the pace to get the big results, but it's just not coming their way right now, and that championship lead is going to be cut into big time.
Backstretch chicane for the final time for Antonio Garcia, the 40-year-old from Spain, looking to share in win number 22. Jordan Taylor started the race from pole. It'll be his 26th win. The BMW is there, but not very close. Checkered flag. That's 5 in 2020 to take even further control of the championship for Corvette. Antonio Garcia and Jordan Taylor win at the Roval. And in BMW, a win for Bill Auberlen in GTD. Auberlen takes number 62 along with Robbie Foley. Will Turner and the crew celebrates.
That's Don Salama in the middle, the strategist. They call him the Iceman. He actually raced there as well back in 2000. Now he just a big buddy of Wilson, is always on the pit box making the right calls.
Corvette, BMW overall. And the BMW wins in GTD with Auberlen. Pat Long comes home second as they continue their strong run. And the Aston Martin of Roman DeAngelis and Ian James also get on the podium. We'll talk to the winners coming up in a moment. Remember, there's more to come. Cup racing tomorrow on NBC from the Roval in Charlotte. rain is intensifying in Charlotte. Time for the BMW race results of the Motul 100% synthetic Grand Prix, the Imsa WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. This is not a recording, but it is Corvette once again.
Just amazing what a roll they are on. They couldn't do anything right in terms of getting a race win for like 3 years, and now they're just executing with this new car to a supreme level, AJ.
When you got things going like that, you don't question anything. Just keep doing exactly the same thing, and looks like they're going to be close to a championship, Cal.
By the way, salute to Oliver Gavin. His 200th starts for Corvette here tonight. Here's GTD. Bill Auberlen has, I think, maybe a few more than that. He's getting close to 200 wins. Number 62 for Bill. And Robbie Foley continues to impress as well.
It's the big day, and great to see DeAngelis and James on the podium. First podium run for that number 23 squad.
All right, in the middle of the raindrops, we'll be hearing from the Corvette winners in just a moment. Maybe also a mention for Michael DeCasada, who steps into the number 12 car, did a nice job in his stint, helps them get on the podium. Some great stories all around tonight in a sprint race with a lot of action.
Looking at the championship points unofficially as Jordan comes in to celebrate with Antonio. I think they're going to have like a 24-point lead over the sister car now, and if they come out of Petit next week with a 20-point lead, they'll seal the deal, Parker.
Right, guys, we see them celebrating down here in Victory Lane. Congratulatory hugs between Jordan Taylor and Antonio Garcia. And Jordan, we'll start with you. You had to start this thing in treacherous conditions. You lose the lead. You fall back to third. You were aquaplaning. How'd you keep it on the road?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was kind of the same for everyone in that situation. But for us, leading the championship, you know, it was all about minimal risk at that point. And you weren't going to win the race in that first, 20, 30 minutes. It was all going to be just survival and kind of handing over the car to Antonio and waiting for it to dry out. Thankfully it did, and I think that the track conditions kind of came to us in our Corvette, and Antonio never put a wheel wrong and brought home another win. So an ongoing amazing year for the new C8R, and yeah, heading to Petit with some nice momentum.
You guys' 5th win of the season. We wait, Antonio, to get ready here. I mean, what does that mean to you quickly? The 5th win. I mean, this is incredible this season.
It's 5th win for us, 6th win for the team with the new car. I mean, first year with a brand new car, and I mean, no one would have ever expected this. So hats off to Corvette Racing. Sorry to see what happened in the 4 car. Good to see Tommy get out okay, and it gives us a lot of confidence as drivers knowing that we're getting into a safe car when we get into a Corvette.
Definitely. And Antonio, talk about that pass there. You rode in second patiently. You bided your time, saving fuel, and then you struck. Why was that the time in the moment?
I mean, it was very stressful right away. I mean, they were really fast when there was a ton of standing water. They were aggressive. They went around. I mean, or I couldn't get around, or they actually went away. So C8R ran again perfectly. So I kind of was there following him, and at some point he started to lose pace, just keep pace with everybody, and we stand, and I think that was my chance. I mean, it felt like he was struggling with tires. So do I. But I kind of stayed calm, and I knew the section 5, 6, 7, 8, it was my turn. So as soon as he did a little mistake, I went for it, and then head down, and another victory for Corvette. So very, very happy.
The dominance continues for the number 3 Corvette, Dylan.
And Bill Auberlen and Robbie Foley, another victory in the GT Daytona category. So we were just laughing, Bill. We talked earlier today, and you said the conditions we had out here, this kind of damp, so to speak, conditions where it's a little dry, that's exactly what you guys needed. You ran the leaders down for 9 seconds, drove out to a 20-second lead. Seemed like you were a man of your word.
Oh, man, it was so good. Robbie got the bad end of that stick. He got the deep water. We know it doesn't like it. And then it started dry. And then when it started dry, I thought, oh, this thing is on fire. And the Liqui-Moly BMW M6 does what it does. It knows how to get to victory lane. Got me there on 61. Now we're 62. Thanks to all my Turner guys. Thanks to Robbie for always doing such a great job. He qualified right up front. What more can you ask for?
Absolutely. And Robbie, you did have your hands full at the start. How treacherous was it, but how important in the same token was it to keep this car up front so that when you did turn it over to Bill, his job was a little easier?
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. You're always balancing on the edge of wanting to go fast, right, and stay P2 or to the lead, but also you're taking a lot of risk doing that. There was a lot of standing water, and coming into the last corner, I got a little bit too far left, and I just hit this lake of water. and totally spun before I even knew it, just hydroplaning. So that's what can catch you out in the heavy rain. But I knew after that we had a good car. We just had to kind of not make any mistakes again. And then, yeah, we had a combination of a decent in-lap after the first group of cars pitted, and then a really, really fast driver change to jump everybody in the pits. And then Bill did the rest, obviously drove a amazing race to the lead. So, yeah, worked out for us. And, yeah, it's great for the team and great to get another win.
Yeah, well done to you both. Second win of the year for Turner Motorsports. Robbie Foley, Bill Auberlen, your winners at the Charlotte Roval.
Bill turns 52 on Monday, and that's why he's still good. I love that enthusiasm. That's how we should all approach life, no matter what age we are.
He is just not slowing down at all, is he? I mean, to gap the field of this quality by 20 seconds is really a testament to Bill's passion. He's just so tough and fit and able to do it. Just cool to watch.
It's like my positive energy on the golf course.
Is that what you call that?
Yeah, but it's honestly, man, that I just love listening to Bill Auberlen. He's having fun, loves his job.
Plenty of racing still to come after we're done. We've got one more segment, but American Flat Track from Woodcock, Georgia is coming up. Stay tuned, we'll wrap it up and preview Petit Le Mans next. It has been an eventful day and night, and significant for some of us more than the rest. AJ Allmendinger began the day driving to victory lane in a torrential downpour on the Roval in Charlotte in the Xfinity Series, hanging on, getting past Chase Briscoe on a late restart, so we gave him a little bit of a break for missing the meeting and the opening of the broadcast because he celebrated in victory lane, still got here for the bulk of the broadcast and was ready for the green flag. And we saw Corvette win again in the Imsa WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in this GT-only event. And look at the points now.
24-point margin. If they come out Petit Le Mans with a 20-point margin and just finish the last two races, the title is theirs.
Much tighter, though, in GTD. Some issues for cars up at the front. It's now the number 16 Wright Motorsports Porsche team and the 14 of Aaron Telitz within 4 of the Acura of 86 and Meyer Shank Racing. So plenty more to come with 3 events to go. Now tomorrow, the NASCAR Cup Series takes on the Roval to determine who advances to the round of 8 in the playoffs. Coverage begins at 2:30 Eastern on NBC. There's more racing coming up next here on NBCSN tonight with American flat track action from Woodstock, Georgia. For the entire NBC crew, including Rich O'Connor, Roger Vincent, Keith Alessandro, congratulations tonight to Corvette winning on the Roval in Imsa.